Good morning, attendees. Welcome to Medical Fair Asia Digital Edition Technical Presentation. This session will be presented by Surendar Magar, President and CEO of LifeSignals Asia Private Limited. He will be sharing with you transforming community healthcare through the integration of wearable medical biosensor. Before we begin, please note there is a Q&A function in this webinar, so do feel free to key in your questions here during the session. If you look at the screen below, you can also see a button, I would like more information for you to make further inquiries after the presentation. With that, let us all now welcome Mr. Magar. Mr. Magar, please.
Thank you so much, Daphne. I'm Surendar Magar, CEO of LifeSignals. So in this session, we will share with you our vision of wearable medical biosensors and how they are going to change the healthcare in the future. So we really thank you for participating. To start with, then we will talk about in general what is going on in the monitoring in general in the marketplace today. If you really think carefully, most of the monitoring is really done in the hospitals today. And we are limited by how many beds in different countries, different hospitals have. And as the COVID-19 showed on our doorsteps, we have seen that how tight the situation could become in hospitals and so on for patient monitoring. The picture, what I'm showing on the left-hand side here, it shows the number of beds in different countries, starting with US, going all the way down to the India, and obviously the less beds you have, the more problems you really have when a pandemic like this hits. On the right-hand side, you really also is showing up that when patients are really suffering in some way, especially in this pandemic situation, which this picture is about, you can see that patients may start with mild symptoms, moderate symptoms, and then very critical symptoms. And many patients will get better, but many will really, they will have a very hard time to recover. And the main problem is that they were not being monitored at that time. If they were being monitored in the early time period, then if they have some other disease, comorbidity and so on, you can take care of them. So basically what we are trying to say is that you are heavily limited by the hospitals today for monitoring, and monitoring is very important for all of us, for us to stay healthy, and also more so when we are critically very ill. And so how do we solve this problem? So that's what we will talk about a little bit. So when we started LifeSignals many years ago, we saw this problem coming that how do you monitor lots of people? Because monitoring in the hospital is very expensive, because the beds are very expensive, the staff is very expensive. So this is not the way the long-term healthcare can survive. So I think our idea was really that how do you create wireless medical biosensors, which really can change completely the healthcare picture. So the mission of the company became, how do you really expand the clinical grade healthcare from hospitals to homes, and really in all different geographies in the world. And we are really fairly a global company at this stage. We have offices in Singapore, in US here where we are headquartered, and also in India, in US in 2 or 3 locations, in Europe. So we're really trying to change the picture worldwide. And I'll give you some idea what we're trying to do. So this picture really shows the importance of the patient monitoring. So if you really, I'm sure a lot of people in the audience, they really all know this picture very well, that today, as I mentioned earlier, the care is really centralized in the hospital. So you can call it a centralized or care. And typically what is done during the monitoring is that patient is tethered into some kind of patient monitor through the wires. All of you probably been to hospitals and you've seen how patients are lying down with the cables connected to their body into some kind of monitoring equipment. So that really basically forces you down into a specific location. And in this way, we looked at the market and so on. There are about 8 to 10 billion biosensors are being shipped, being used in the world today. On a yearly basis. And many of them are like ECG electrodes, many other are like SpO2 units for the finger, the pulse oximetry, I don't know how many people are familiar with those kind of terminology, but they're basically some kind of monitoring sensors picking up basically biosignals. Now, if you imagine the world that if you can just cut the wire, cutting the wire means untethering the people from the monitors. And so if you really can make the same biosensors wireless, then the world could change instantly, because the patients can now move around. They don't need to be tied to the monitoring equipment. So if there are, as I said earlier, 8 to 10 billion units shipping today per year in the worldwide. So imagine if the worldwide, instead of having these wired electrodes, you really can create wireless biosensors. It's really going to create a very exciting world, and which is a little bit shown in the next picture, which I'll share with you. So you can imagine if people are really completely wearing these wireless biosensors, and your data is flowing somewhere into the server, and then the data could be viewed anywhere, then your hospitals can be wireless, where the patients can move around freely and they don't need to be tethered into the beds, into the monitors. And you can also have the same kind of patients, at home as well. If they're wearing the same biosensor, if they're wearing whatever they were wearing in the hospital, then the hospital grade clinical care is available to them even at homes. The same kind of care, the monitoring, I'm talking about from the monitoring perspective. So then also healthcare on demand becomes possible, that if you are feeling not so well and so on, you can really instantly basically ask for healthcare, some kind of healthcare attention. And if you're carrying wire sensors, so you have some package of them, you can put them on, and you are instantly could be monitored by somebody remotely. And other major applications we are seeing is also, especially with the COVID-19, companies are realizing that when people are coming back to work, is it really safe for them to come back to work? Are they getting sick? So many corporations are trying to basically monitor employees as well. Again, the wireless biosensors they become very handy in this situation. So anyway, you can imagine so many other situations. What we're trying to say, the world will be instantly will change, and the healthcare cost will go down, because these kind of biosensors are not, I don't think they can. They really need to be very high cost. They can be very affordable, and you can view the data on mobile devices or whatever. So the whole task become very simple. In hospital today, it will cost you maybe many thousands and thousands of dollars to monitor a patient. So that becomes really low cost. And also the AI kind of technology could be applied in future. As you are monitoring more and more people, you have access to their data. You can develop more clever algorithms. So AI, through this kind of digital and the wireless devices, the AI also becomes a very important component of the whole solution. So we see this kind of world already is developing. It is in the process of really changing right now, especially with the COVID-19, and that is going to accelerate as especially in 2021, we believe. Now it comes back to what kind of biosensors are needed. So what we looked at was really the best way to kind of attack that problem is, what are people monitoring in the hospital today? Because you need to give the same kind of care within the hospital and also outside the hospitals. So what listed on the bottom left here is really that what different vital signs are most commonly looked at in the hospitals. They're multi-lead ECGs. Their SpO2, which is the pulse oximetry, normally they put on the finger, and then you are being monitored. The heart rate, the respiration rate, the body temperature, posture, are you moving or still? That is very useful. So there are some key signs like that. So our goal of the company was, when we started this company, was, can we offer that kind of multi-parameter solution in one patch eventually? So it must be a multi-parameter patch. It must be very low cost and disposable, fully disposable. You use it and you throw it away, because that's the way the healthcare works. And then also clinical grade accuracy, because you're going to make life and death decisions based on these devices. Who should get what kind of care? Is somebody well or not? So they need to be highly accurate and super reliable. So these are very tough problems to solve, especially if you're trying to build a kind of a wireless biosensor of this kind with these kind of properties I mentioned. So we basically ran into a lot of issues that how do you create such technology? So eventually what we had to do is create a kind of a full solution on a single chip. and that chip can go into the biosensors, and you can create the whatever type of biosensors you want. So this is we have limited time, so I won't spend too much time, but we will be glad to send you more information. And but all the functions are integrated on a chip: the sensors, the microprocessors, the multiple radios. So you can take care of a lot of patients in one room without interfering with each other. So a complete solution was created, so you can work with very low cost batteries. So you can see behind that kind of chip can go into some kind of biosensor patch. And in reality, that patch which you're seeing is something like this. Hopefully you are able to see. So you just wear on the chest, and you basically have in this kind of patch, really all these multiple signals available to monitor. So then once you have the patch, that's not the complete solution. The most common system, as you know, in the consumer world, the life has changed as we went from our telephones used to be kind of devices plugged into some wall somewhere and with the cord hanging on the device. But today we have basically a cordless devices, smartphones, and also have the cloud system infrastructure which goes with these devices. So you can offer so many different services. So healthcare is going to follow very similar path. So what we see is, you need to create the big problem is the biosensors, because all the data comes from the body. And if you can pick up the data, then the data needs to relate to the cloud device. So the way we have developed our technology is that you can go through the Android or iOS devices or some Wi-Fi access points, and you can really transmit the data. And in a real time, this could be going from thousands of patients, whether they're in the hospital or some of them could be outside the hospitals. Then then the data could be viewed on multi-patient dashboards or individually by a physician. So you can create all kinds of, so there's a cloud system of some kind. So we have basically, what we did was also create a cloud-based software and other kind of applications so that the data can be available in the cloud. And then we are working with many partners around the world, who are really offering the services based on this kind of technology. So you can see then the partners' cloud system becomes our companion, and which can carry a lot of other functions, which our partners are offering. So our idea is, to offer this back-end technology and work with partners to help change the world the way I kind of described in the beginning of the presentation. And as I said earlier, we are on our way to change the world, and healthcare is going to change because it's a major problem. COVID is just, hopefully it will end soon, but I think all governments are very careful at this stage. We don't know when another pandemic will hit or what other issues we are going to see. And many emerging nations, especially in countries like India, many other Asia Pacific nations, also other parts of the world, many emerging countries don't have healthcare for their people at all. So with this kind of system, you can deliver care in the remote areas. With the AI technology, you can help to cut down the medical staff and so on. So that's the world we see kind of developing. And my last slide is, our idea is really to engage with multiple partners who are serving these markets in different geographies. And we are already engaged with many parties around the world. Small companies, the people who are major suppliers in the hospitals right now, the new companies which are offering cloud systems, really massive companies, we are also working with them. So really this is, so you will have all different kind of healthcare systems eventually coming through many different channels. And so the world will look very different. So that's pretty much, what I wanted to share. And, we can also have some questions and so on. And my last slide is, if anybody, I know the time was short and I've taken maybe a few minutes extra, but, we'll be glad to kind of, you can take our, the QR code is here. You can also send us questions and we'll be glad to provide more information. So thank you. That was basically time I had to what I could spend with you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Magar. Okay, so if you guys have any more questions, please feel free to send your inquiries from the button below. You could see this button that says, I would like more information. So you could send in your question over there. And of course, if you would like to recap any of the slides here, our video will be available for on-demand viewing until 18 December. You can also find other videos in the technical presentation under the Agenda tab in this portal. Once again, thank you for participating in today's webinar. We hope to see you again soon. Thank you.